Hello there guys and welcome to Recently Seen, where today we're taking a look at the widely critically acclaimed psychothriller, The Gift. The well-to-do young couple Simon and Robin, played by Jason Bateman and Rebecca Hall, have just purchased a brand new home in the hopes of starting a family. Shortly after moving in, they come across one of Simon's old classmates, Gordon, played by the film's writer and director Joel Edgerton. Gordon seems very eager to reconnect with Simon, but he also seems to get a little too friendly a little too fast, as he starts to leave presents at the house and dropping by very often. And soon it becomes clear that he and Simon have a less than spotless past together. The Gift has many great things going for it, and one thing that springs to mind pretty much immediately is how well directed it is for a debut feature film. It very skillfully builds up suspense in the scenes where it needs to, and the very few jump scares that are present are very well placed and quite effective. The actors also bring great performances to the table. Joel Edgerton is wonderfully awkward as Gordon and peppers the character with just enough unease. And Jason Bateman proves that he can be a great leading man as the successful, arrogant, and somewhat cynical Simon. Unlike many psychothrillers, we get the added bonus of Simon being very suspicious of Gordon very early on, rather than spending the whole movie being completely oblivious until the final confrontation. The arguments that spring up about whether or not his suspicions have any basis, and the very low-key nature of Gordon's antics really serves the story well for the first half of the movie. Unfortunately, things start to go off the rails once we get to the second half. As more and more of Gordon's backstory and motivation for stalking the couple is revealed, we get a lot of information that is supposed to make him sympathetic to the audience. And it would, thanks to the really dark and very relevant theme of the film, if it wasn't for the fact that many of the actions he takes or are implied to take really have very little relevance to said motivation. On top of that, the very effective low-key scares that Gordon has been responsible for in the movie so far gradually get ramped up to ridiculously complicated levels, to a point where his final plan basically relies on pure luck to be effective at all, and drags in a lot of people he has no reason to target. All of this seems to be done for the sheer purpose of building up to a contrived shock ending that is nowhere near as hard to see coming as most critics claim. On a similar note, the nicely wrapped presents that Gordon leaves at Simon's house end up being gimmicky at best and ultimately pointless. They have no thematic relation to what Gordon is actually doing, and end up just serving as a visual cue to drag in the audience. The Gift tries to portray a morally grey conflict where both sides are less than great people bound together by shared events, but it really doesn't work. Bateman's character turns out to be so thoroughly unlikable that it's hard to feel sorry for him, while Edgerton's character does things that are so much more awful than his backstory supposedly justifies. The Gift is currently being hailed as one of the greatest thrillers ever made, and I simply cannot understand why. While it is very well directed and touches on some very serious subject matter that deserves further attention, the story is just too contrived for its own good. Now don't get me wrong, the movie is certainly worth watching for its suspense and for its performances, and I myself quite enjoyed it while I was watching. But the second half of the movie just really hurts the story, and the second you sit down and think about what happened, the whole thing falls apart. It really just comes across as spending its entire runtime building up to a contrived shock ending. In short, I just can't find myself agreeing with any of the glowing praise this movie is getting. The Gift is a mess. It's a very well polished mess, but it's a mess all the same, and it should only be watched for the thrill you feel in the moment. Still, I would love to see more from Joel Edgerton. The ideas and the directorial skills are certainly there, and I'm sure he has great things in store for us later on. This has been Recently Seen, and I will see you guys later.